Welcome. What you are about to watch is not science fiction, and it is not folklore. It is a serious investigation into one of history's most compelling unresolved questions: the mystery of ancient Greek fire, the secret weapon that set the sea ablaze. Across the world, in universities, research institutes, and field excavations, serious scholars are wrestling with evidence that does not fit the accepted story. Evidence that has been documented, measured, and peer-reviewed, and that still has no satisfying conventional explanation. We are going to look at that evidence carefully, without prejudice in either direction. Not dismissing what is extraordinary, but not accepting it without scrutiny either. The truth, as always, is in the details. In 678 AD, a fleet of Arab warships sailed to capture Constantinople, capital of the Byzantine Empire, intent on extinguishing the last major power of the Christian Mediterranean world. They had crushed every enemy they had previously encountered. The Byzantine defenders appeared vastly outnumbered and outmatched. Then the Byzantines deployed a weapon that no one in the attacking fleet had ever seen before. Ships at the front of the Arab formation erupted in flames that water could not extinguish, flames that spread across the surface of the sea itself and clung to the hulls and men it touched. Survivors reported that the fire struck with the terror of divine intervention. The Arab fleet was annihilated. Constantinople was saved. The weapon was Greek fire, a liquid incendiary compound projected through bronze siphons mounted on Byzantine warships. It was used again in 718 AD to defeat a second Arab assault, and was reportedly deployed in various forms for nearly 8 centuries. Byzantine emperors treated its formula as the most closely guarded state secret in the empire. When Constantinople finally fell to the Ottomans in 1453 AD, the secret died with it. Over 1,000 years later, no chemist or historian has been able to definitively reconstruct it. This is where our investigation begins. Stay with us, because the further we go into the evidence, the more extraordinary it becomes. The story you think you know is only the surface. Beneath it lies something far more remarkable. Let us begin. Before we examine the specific evidence, we need to step back and understand the context. This case does not exist in isolation. It sits within the wider world of ancient technological anomalies, and to properly evaluate what we are looking at, we need to understand the broader picture that surrounds it. The official story of technological progress follows a reassuring arc: stone tools giving way to bronze, bronze to iron, iron to steel, and finally, the Industrial Revolution catapulting humanity into the modern age. In this narrative, each generation inherits a slightly more sophisticated toolkit than the last, and no knowledge is ever truly lost. It is a comfortable story. It is also, in key respects, demonstrably false. History is littered with technological achievements that appeared centuries before their supposed invention, vanished after the cultures that created them collapsed, and were reinvented, often with great difficulty, by later civilizations who had no idea the knowledge had ever existed. Roman concrete was stronger and more durable than most modern concrete, and was not matched again until the 21st century. Greek fire, the incendiary weapon that protected the Byzantine Empire for centuries, has never been fully reproduced. Damascus steel, capable of holding an edge that modern metallurgists struggle to replicate, disappeared with the craftsmen who made it. These are not myths. They are documented historical losses of genuine technical knowledge. When we encounter an object from the ancient world that should not exist, a battery from Baghdad dated to the Parthian era, a computing mechanism salvaged from an ancient shipwreck, a map showing geographical features that were not officially discovered for another millennium, the temptation is to dismiss it as misidentified or misstated. That dismissal is sometimes warranted. But when such objects accumulate, when the pattern becomes too consistent to ignore, the honest response is to ask whether our model of ancient capability is simply wrong. This context matters because it tells us something important. What we are about to investigate is not an isolated curiosity. It is part of a pattern that researchers in multiple fields have been independently documenting for decades. And patterns in science demand explanation. With that foundation in place, let us now turn to the specific case at hand. Now we reach the heart of the matter, the core evidence surrounding ancient Greek fire. The secret weapon that set the sea ablaze is more extensive, more verified, and more troubling for conventional explanations than most people realize. Let us walk through it systematically, fact by fact, and allow the evidence to speak for itself. We are not going to speculate here. Every point that follows is documented in peer-reviewed publications, official archaeological records, or government archives that are publicly accessible. The question is not whether these facts are real. The question is what they mean. Consider this first extraordinary detail. Greek fire was first deployed in 678 AD during the Arab siege of Constantinople by the Byzantine navy. The weapon was projected using bronze siphon pumps mounted on specially constructed warships called dromon galleys, which carried the incendiary liquid in heated reservoirs and expelled it through a pressurized nozzle. The projector system is described in Byzantine military manuals, including the Tactica of Emperor Leo VI, written around 900 AD, in general terms without disclosing the fuel composition. This single data point, if taken in isolation, might be set aside. Anomalies happen, instruments malfunction, researchers make mistakes, but as we continue, you will see that this is not an isolated anomaly. It is part of a consistent and documented pattern. But that is only the beginning. Researchers also discovered the defining characteristic of Greek fire reported across all surviving Byzantine, Arab, and Western accounts was its ability to ignite on contact with water and to resist extinguishing by water, or to burn more intensely when water was applied. Byzantine sources report that sand, vinegar, and urine were used to suppress it. The weapon was deployed again in 718 AD to defeat the Second Arab Siege of Constantinople, and historical records indicate its continued use through the 10th and 11th centuries. Now, a skeptic might propose an alternative explanation for this, and that is entirely reasonable. We should always test alternative explanations before accepting extraordinary ones. The problem is that the alternative explanations, when examined carefully, create more problems than they solve. The mystery deepens when we examine. Greek fire is described by multiple Byzantine historical sources. The chronicler Theophanes the Confessor, writing in the early 9th century, gives the earliest detailed account of its 678 deployment, attributing its invention to the Syrian-Greek chemist Kallinikos of Heliopolis. Anna Komnene, daughter of Emperor Alexios I, described its use in 12th century naval battles in her history, the Alexiad, noting it was projected from prow-mounted siphons and burned on water. This is where the conventional account begins to strain. Each individual fact might be dismissed or minimized in isolation. But the cumulative weight of the evidence is another matter entirely. Perhaps most remarkable of all, the last confirmed historical reference to Greek fire in Byzantine military use dates to the final siege and fall of Constantinople to Ottoman forces in 1453 AD. No surviving Byzantine document records the formula or manufacturing process. Byzantine emperors reportedly restricted knowledge of the composition to a small group of trusted specialists. Anna Komnene records that even the emperor himself did not know the full preparation process, a security measure that proved catastrophically effective when the empire fell. Researchers who have examined this evidence have described it as genuinely difficult to explain within the accepted framework. These are not fringe commentators. They are credentialed academics publishing in mainstream journals, raising questions that the field has not yet satisfactorily answered. Then there is the matter of Byzantine military strategy treated Greek fire as an irreplaceable strategic asset, and emperors maintained secrecy over its composition for approximately 700 years. Constantine Roman VII Porphyrogenitos, writing in the 10th century, explicitly prohibited sharing the secret with any foreign power, including allied states, describing Greek fire as a divine gift entrusted only to the Christian Roman Empire. This policy of compartmentalized secrecy appears to have been so effective that the formula left no trace in any surviving document. What makes this particularly significant is its independence from the previous points. This is not a case of one theory requiring another. These are separate lines of evidence converging on the same uncomfortable conclusion. Adding to the enigma is this finding: natural petroleum seeps and naphtha deposits are found in regions historically controlled by or accessible to the Byzantine Empire, including the Crimea and the eastern Black Sea coast. Arab sources describe similar incendiary weapons using naphtha in land warfare, suggesting the general principle of petroleum-based incendiaries was known across the medieval world. However, the Byzantine naval formula clearly incorporated additional components that made it uniquely capable of burning on water, a property not reported for standard naphtha incendiaries. Taken together, these facts form a pattern that cannot be explained by coincidence, misidentification, or methodological error. Each piece of evidence has been examined by skeptics. Each has been subjected to alternative explanations, and in each case, the alternative explanation falls short of accounting for everything that has been documented. We are left with a body of evidence that demands explanation and an accepted narrative that does not provide one. This is where serious inquiry begins. Now that we have established the evidence, we need to examine the theories that researchers have proposed to explain ancient Greek fire, the secret weapon that set the sea ablaze. This is where the debate becomes most intense, because the theories reflect not just different interpretations of the same evidence, but fundamentally different assumptions about what is possible and what the past looked like. Understanding these theories is not just an academic exercise. Each one has been championed by serious researchers with genuine credentials, and each one captures something that the others miss. The truth, if it is ever established, will likely draw on elements of several. The first major explanation proposed by researchers holds that John Haldon and Carlin Lacey proposed that Greek fire was a mixture of distilled petroleum, quicklime, and pine resin or pitch. Quicklime reacts exothermically with water, generating intense heat capable of igniting adjacent petroleum on contact with the sea surface. This formulation explains reports of water intensifying the fire. The objection is that the resulting compound would be extremely difficult to store safely and to pump through bronze siphons without causing catastrophic malfunction of the delivery system. This interpretation has significant academic support and is backed by substantial evidence. But it is not without problems. Critics point out that it requires assumptions that go beyond what the evidence strictly supports, and that key predictions of this theory have not been confirmed by subsequent research. It remains contested, and the contest is productive. A rival school of thought argues that historian Alex Rowland argued in his 1992 study that the effectiveness and secrecy of Greek fire have been significantly exaggerated in both Byzantine and modern sources. In Rowland's reading, the weapon was a variant of well-known ancient petroleum-based incendiaries, and imperial secrecy functioned partly as strategic disinformation, making the weapon seem more formidable than it was. This view is contested by military historians who regard the decisive 678 siege outcome as too consequential to dismiss. This theory is controversial, and deliberately so. Its proponents argue that the evidence demands an explanation outside the conventional framework. Critics counter that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that the evidence presented, while suggestive, does not yet meet that standard. The debate continues in peer-reviewed literature. Perhaps the most unconventional theory suggests that a minority chemical hypothesis proposes that Greek fire was based on calcium phosphide, a compound that spontaneously ignites upon contact with water and continues burning intensely, elegantly explaining accounts of spontaneous ignition. On the sea surface, critics note that calcium phosphide does not appear in any known ancient chemical tradition, requires industrial-scale phosphorus chemistry unattested in the Byzantine world, and would be almost impossibly dangerous to store and deploy in a naval context. What is striking about this debate is not merely that experts disagree. That is normal and healthy in science. What is striking is the quality of the disagreement. Serious researchers, working from the same body of evidence, reaching genuinely different conclusions. That level of fundamental disagreement, when it persists over decades, is a signal that something important has not yet been understood. The question is not which of these theories is right. The question is whether any of them is right, or whether the truth is something that none of the current frameworks has yet been able to capture. The case surrounding ancient Greek fire, the secret weapon that set the sea ablaze, does not rest on speculation alone. What distinguishes this investigation from pure mythology is the existence of documented, physical, verifiable evidence, material that has been examined by credentialed researchers and whose authenticity is not seriously disputed. What is disputed is its interpretation. Let us review the most significant documented evidence as objectively as possible. We are not going to cherry-pick the data that supports a preferred conclusion. We are going to lay out what exists and let you draw your own assessment. Physical evidence supporting this account includes the water ignition property of Greek fire is reported independently by Byzantine, Arab, and Western Crusader sources spanning 5 centuries, representing testimony fr. Opposing sides with no shared interest in fabricating the same detail. The Chronicle of Theophanes, the Alexiad of Anna Komnene, Arab military histories, and Western Crusader accounts all describe fire spreading across water surfaces and intensifying when water was applied, constituting a consistent evidentiary pattern across widely separated independent sources. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Investigators have documented the bronze siphon projection system is depicted in Byzantine military manuscripts, including the Codex Skylitzes, a 12th century illuminated chronicle housed in the National Library of Spain. The illustrations show Draman warships with prow-mounted siphon tubes projecting streams of flame toward enemy vessels. The Tactica of Leo VI describes the tactical deployment of Greek fire projectors in naval engagements, confirming the existence and general design of the delivery system. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. On-site analysis revealed quicklime, calcium oxide, reacts vigorously with water in a strongly exothermic reaction, generating enough heat to ignite adjacent combustible materials. This property is well attested and reproducible, making quicklime a plausible component of any incendiary compound designed to ignite on contact with seawater. Quicklime was produced throughout the Byzantine world for construction purposes, making it readily available as an industrial material whose combination with petroleum distillates would produce a spontaneously igniting incendiary. This evidence has been subjected to independent verification. Skeptics have examined it. Alternative explanations have been proposed and tested. The data remains. The question of what it means remains open. Each individual piece of evidence might, in principle, be explained away. A single anomalous artifact might be misidentified. A single anomalous date might reflect contamination. A single anomalous eyewitness account might reflect misperception. The question is whether all of the evidence can be explained away, and whether the explanations required are more or less plausible than the evidence itself. When multiple independent lines of inquiry converge on the same conclusion, that convergence is the most powerful signal in empirical science. And that is exactly what we are seeing here. We have examined the history, the evidence, and the theories surrounding ancient Greek fire, the secret weapon that set the sea ablaze. Now we need to ask the question that is sometimes overlooked in discussions of ancient mysteries: why does this matter? What does it mean for us today? It would be easy to file this away as an interesting historical curiosity, a puzzle from a distant past with no bearing on our present lives. That would be a fundamental mistake. The questions raised by this case touch on issues that are directly relevant to who we are, where we came from, and what the human story actually looks like before the period covered by conventional history. No confirmed reconstruction of Greek fire's formula has been achieved despite considerable effort by chemists and military historians. John Haldon's naphtha quicklime resin hypothesis remains the most widely cited scholarly proposal, supported by the availability of all three components in the Byzantine world and the chemical plausibility of their combination. Incendiary weapon chemistry is now thoroughly understood by modern science, and researchers have identified numerous formulations producing effects consistent with the historical descriptions. The inability to identify the specific Byzantine formula reflects the absolute success of the imperial secrecy policy rather than any fundamental chemical mystery. Greek fire remains one of history's most consequential military technologies. It saved Constantinople twice and arguably preserved Byzantine civilization for an additional 7 centuries. Its loss stands as one of the most complete examples of deliberate technological knowledge dying with the civilization that held it. Furthermore, the tools available to investigate these questions are advancing rapidly. Satellite imaging, ground-penetrating radar, ancient DNA analysis, isotopic tracing, and deep-sea sonar are all providing capabilities that previous generations of researchers could only dream of. Cases that were genuinely unresolvable 10 years ago are now open to new analysis, and the findings, consistently, are expanding rather than contracting the mystery. The investigation continues. New discoveries are being made. New analyses are being published. New voices are entering the conversation from disciplines that were not previously part of the discussion. The answers, when they come, and they will come, will not merely solve a historical puzzle. They will force a fundamental revision of assumptions that underpin our entire understanding of human history and human potential. We have now walked through the complete case of ancient Greek fire, the secret weapon that set the sea ablaze, from the historical record, through the physical evidence, across the competing theories, and into the modern significance of what remains unresolved. What the story of Greek fire ultimately reveals is not just a historical puzzle. It is a mirror. It reflects our assumptions back at us, our assumptions about what ancient people were capable of, about how knowledge is gained and lost across the centuries, and about the relationship between what we know and what we merely think we know. The evidence presented in this documentary is real. The questions it raises are genuine. The debate among researchers is ongoing, and that is healthy. Science is not a set of conclusions. It is a process. And the process requires that we remain open to evidence that challenges what we thought we knew, however uncomfortable that challenge might be. If you came to this documentary as a skeptic, we hope the evidence gave you something to think about. If you came as a true believer, we hope the critical examination gave you a more nuanced picture. The truth, as always, lies in the evidence, not in what we want to be true. Thank you for watching. If this investigation sparked your curiosity, please subscribe to the channel. We publish new documentaries every week, covering the full range of historical mysteries that the mainstream has not yet adequately explained. Leave a comment below telling us which case you want us to investigate next. The conversation continues. The investigation never ends.